Namaste. I am Save the Frogs founder, Dr. Carrie Krieger here in Thailand. Good to be on this side of the world. And happy to be here for this edition of Save the Frogs South Asia Meetups. A couple quick announcements before we get going. One is that tomorrow, December 1st, is the final day that you can enter the Save the Frogs photo contest. So if you have excellent amphibian photos or even one excellent amphibian photo, I encourage you to go to savethefrogs.com/photo before 11:59 p.m. Los Angeles time, December 1st. So that may actually be morning December 2nd in India. But don't wait till the last minute. It's free to enter, or you can pay $10 and become eligible for a $500 grand prize. Next up, Save the Frogs Day. The 17th annual Save the Frogs Day is coming up let's see, April 28th, 2025. Mark your calendar, April 28th, 2025, the world's largest day of amphibian education and conservation action. We actually hold Save the Frogs Day planning sessions on, I believe, the third Tuesday of each month. So I think that's December 17th. You can find that info, savethefrogs.com/day, and organize an event to benefit amphibians in your community. I also encourage you to go check out the Save the Frogs India webpage, savethefrogs.com/India. And we also have a Save the Frogs Bangladesh page, savethefrogs.com/Bangladesh. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Sarbani.
Hi, everybody. Very good evening from India. And I am Sharbani Nag from Save the Frogs India. Save the Frogs India has started its journey in the year of 2019. And since then, we have done a lot of sensitization programs and programs with school kids, mass awareness programs. And this is a new venture that we have started since May. And this is, we believe that we are creating a platform of knowledge sharing uh, with the people who are interested in amphibians, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. So basically, this is a common platform where we can share knowledge and we can actually help each other to grow the network. Now, today we are grateful to Prajjwal since he has agreed to talk about the amphibians of North Bengal, India. I would like to give a brief introduction of Prajjwal before he starts. Prajjwal is from Jalpaiguri district, Northern West Bengal, India. He is a herpetology enthusiast and he is very keen to learn the natural history aspects of the species, and he loves to spend time with the creatures in the field and talk about the little creatures to other people who haven't been in the field. So basically, having a heartfelt interest for the herpetofauna led him to take environmental biology and wildlife sciences during his postgraduate studies. After completion of that in 2022, he joined the prestigious Wildlife Institute of India, which is based in Dehradun, and has worked in two different projects for a total of 16 months. And he is actively involved in harping expeditions in the hills and forests of northern West Bengal. That actually his post suggests, Facebook posts and Insta posts suggest that he is a tremendous explorer, photographing native reptiles, amphibians, observing and recording their diversity, natural history, and behavior. For the last 10 years or so, he has also been a resource person of several mass sensitization and capacity building programs. He has published articles, both research and popular science, and currently working on a few more. We would like to have the access of your new papers, Prajjwal. The idea of citizen science as a tool of studying natural history and doing conservation fascinates him greatly. And we also want to promote citizen science so that we can actually have more people on board to spread the word. So today's presentation is about Anurans of Northern West Bengal, diversity, natural history, and conservation. The present will provide a brief overview of the diversity of frogs and toads found in different habitats of Northern West Bengal, India. It will also deal with natural history aspects of several species, the threats that they face, and the conservation measures taken or not taken. So we are really thrilled to hear you, Prajjwal. Over to you.
Thank you, Shabanidhi. I would like to thank you for granting me this opportunity to speak to this wonderful set of audience that we have. And before going to the presentation and everything, I would like to tell something that I consider myself a newcomer, a greenhorn, so to speak. I am still making a lot of mistakes, and I'm asking questions to my seniors, maybe sometimes stupid questions as well. They have been patient with my stupid questions, and I have found the help I needed from my peers, my teachers, my seniors. And today's discussion is going to be more of a storytelling. I have not included much of the hardcore scientific facts, bar plots, pie charts, box whiskers, and whatnot. I'll try to convey what goes on in case of the frogs and toads of Northern West Bengal from my point of view, as well as the experience, the little bit of experience that I have managed to gather over the years. So without further ado, let's get into the topic. I suppose I'm being visible.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So, as the name suggests, the Anurans of Northern West Bengal. Let us first take a look at what Northern West Bengal actually is. So this is basically, as we all know, it's a map of India, and this darkened part, this state is our state of West Bengal. And within these, the river Ganges flows from somewhere in the middle of this, which essentially divides it in two parts, the North Bengal and the South Bengal. Now, when we will talk about the North Bengal, it actually incorporates many more districts that are not, I would say, quite similar with the extreme northern districts. So that is what I'm gonna be focusing today. This, as you can all see, this highlighted portion. So this is what we can call the Northern West Bengal. These five districts as we have of today. So this one is Darjeeling. You may have heard about it, obviously, famous for Darjeeling tea and whatnot. And this is Jalpaiguri. This is my district, my town. And this is Kuch Bihar. This is Alipurduar, and this is Kalimpong. Alipurduar and Kalimpong, these two are relatively new. They used to be part of Darjeeling and Jalpaiguri. So let's put things into a perspective now. So this is a basic map layout, and I hope you can now understand the geographical position and why it is fascinating. So see, Northern West Bengal, these districts of Northern West Bengal has Nepal, Sikkim, Bhutan, Assam, Bangladesh at this portion, Bihar, all these states with, as we know, for enormous biodiversity. These states are actually surrounding the Northern West Bengal districts. So this is why many of the same species, similar species are found in these hills as well. Because as I have always said in the mass sensitization programs and such, that animals do not follow boundaries or whatever that we come up with. So these are just hill tracks for them. So they just disperse like that. So now let's take a look at the different types of habitats we have in Northern West Bengal. Just few photos to just to get you an idea of what the habitats might look like. So see, essentially at the end of the day, a village is a village and a town is a town. However, I have decided to include this picture of a rural Northern West Bengal because of two, three facts. Those are, as we know, many amphibian species are actually related to what we call agro-ecosystem. The ecosystem, although temporary, that is built up based on the agricultural practices, I would say. And as we may all know, that this West Bengal and many other states of India are rice cultivators, rice producers. So there will be these waterlogged paddy fields, rice paddies, and also jutes and these sorts of things that require water. And so my point is that these fields, these pasture lands are waterlogged for this agricultural purposes, and this is what the amphibians use for breeding and such. Apart from the human settlement areas, that is rural and urban and whatnot, we have this plains forest. Plains means these forests are situated at lower foothills, I would say, and they are more or less like a plain, not very much of up and down and everything. And then we have foothill forest, and we can see that hills and mountain ranges are visible. Maybe small hills are starting from here, but it is still essentially in the plains. Then we have the proper hill forests with the slopes, and you know how the vegetation changes. In the extreme higher altitude, we'll find coniferous trees and these and that. And we also have these beautiful mountain streams with cascades. These are inhabited by a lot of amphibian species. We'll talk about them in a minute. So let us now come to the diversity and natural history part. So I know this diversity and natural history, these two names in itself are very huge and vast topics. What I'll essentially do here is that I'll show you people some photographs maybe that will fascinate you. And in between, I will try to squeeze in some of natural history facts or whatever. So let us begin. Northern West Bengal, as I'm aware of, currently has this actually 6 families. There has been a mistake. Anyways, these 6 families are actually Buffonidae, Dicroclosidae, Microhylidae, Ranidae, and Rhacophoridae, along with Megaphoridae. That is the horned frogs and stuff. So let us get into the species. Starting with the family Buffonidae, the family of toads. First, we have the Asian common toad, very common species, very well-known species. And just to show you how this little creatures call, I have included one video. I hope you're able to hear the call.
Yes.
So one fascinating thing about this is that they are very adaptable to any sort of change in habitat, and they are often found in and around human settlements, and they will occupy any given habitat, so to speak. Even sewers with stagnant waters, they start breeding there. And very common species. And one thing I would like to say to my non-Bengali audience, in Bengali language, we call these toads kunobang. Kunobang essentially means a toad which lives in the corner of our rooms. This refers to their peculiar habit of entering households and basically staying there, hanging around there. Next, we have this marble toad, Duttaphrynus stomaticus. These are, at least in light of, since we are talking about Northern West Bengal, from what I have seen is that these toads are a little bit uncommon than the previous one, the Asian common toad. And I am yet to see any breeding activities in these parts. However, I have seen some in Dehradun when I was in Dehradun. And these frogs like to, these toads like to hang around damp, moist, grassy plains, and possibly like to breed in the temporal rain pools. Next, we have one species from higher elevations, a hill species essentially, that is Himalayan toad. Very imposing figure, very, looks like a don or mafia boss, that kind of stuff. One interesting thing here I'd like to point out is that if you look closely, you will see some minute things under this gland, this swelled structure that is parotid gland, as we may all know. So on the first glance, these things may seem like ectoparasites, and ectoparasites like dermal parasites, they usually like to hang in such places, in such crevices and ridges of skin. But if you look closely, you will find out these are actually seeds of grass. How fascinating is it to think that these amphibians, these toads, may obviously unknowingly, but they are actually contributing at least to some extent to seed dispersal, perhaps. So next we'll look at an amplecting pair. As you can see, this amplexus is of axial type and they're laying eggs. And let me tell you, this is essentially an extension of a pothole. This is temporal rainpool. This is not even rainpool. These kinds of, I mean, waterlogged pathways that catch water, that hold water after maybe brief shower. And these frogs, since in the mountain regions, apart from streams, it's very hard to get stagnant water sources, the places that these toads like to breed in. So this is why they make use of this potholes filled with water, these temporal rain pools, and etc. So next, let us go to the family Dicroclogidae. This family has our very well-known bullfrogs, cricket frogs, skipper frogs, and also some lesser known species from the hills like the Nanurana or the Ingerana, etc. etc. This is our very well-known Indian bullfrog, very imposing looking fella. And I think most of us have heard or seen these kind of things, the breeding coloration that they acquire, or the vocalization that they make, but I just played briefly. These frogs, what to say about them? They are one peculiar thing about them is that they are often sought after for their meat, which is not widely consumed in the state of West Bengal, but there are some prevailing issues. We'll get to them later on. The next species is is Jordan's bullfrog, a relatively lesser known species. And there is one very interesting thing I will say about this species. Just listen to it. Yeah, so could any of you were able to hear the call of a goat, like the bleating of a goat, that kind of sound? So this is what their
Yes.
call, yeah. So this is what their call actually sounds like. And from what I have seen in respect to Northern West Bengal, they seem to prefer the jute cultivation lands for hanging out and maybe for breeding purposes. Although they also form breeding aggregations like that of Indian bullfrogs, but I am yet to see any of those. But I can remember of one incident when I went to relocate a snake from within the village area that is not very far from my house. And while coming back, I basically stopped to take a leak. And I was standing beside a jute cultivation land, and I could hear the bleating of goats. And I was very surprised at the time. I was thinking maybe someone has put out their domestic goat or forgot about the goats they had put out earlier and whatnot. So later I came to know that these are these frogs actually. Next is the frog, the skittering frog, the skipper frog. It
Hi,
used to be
Prajjwal.
known widely. Yeah.
Before you continue, as
Yeah.
interesting as the call was, that it sounded like a
Yeah.
goat, I thought just as interesting was the fact that there was all that traffic right there. So I'm curious, Are they often found in high human density zones? And what's do they do fine with that?
Yeah, let me clarify this thing a bit. It is actually due to me taking the frog from its habitat to photograph it better, and I basically brought one frog to where my home is, and I did the photography in my garden, and the frog escaped from there. I couldn't find it later. And after a few minutes of that, rainfall started. A brief shower continued, and whenever the raindrops hit the ground, this frog started calling. And the main road, the road busy with vehicular load and traffic load is not very far from my house. So that is why, and that is why you were also hearing the traffic noises. But usually, what I have seen is that these species are more restricted to the village areas, and I'm not entirely sure if they prefer village areas over the urban or more populated settlements. But this is where I have found them mostly, towards the
Okay.
villages. But
I'm curious
yeah,
too, where you live, like people who live around there, do they have regular contact with frogs? Like everyone ends up hearing frogs, or the frogs are way outside? I mean, they're outside the city and the people never go into those places.
no, no, people basically have regular contact with frogs, but there is this mentality that frogs do not matter. I will talk about this later, but this is what they feel like. Oh, it's just a frog, whatever. Just maybe they won't even, let's say for example, if there is some beautiful green colored tree frog or whatever in front of them, maybe they won't even take a look. At maximum they will ask, is this venomous, and they will just move on. So people do not really care to know about frogs here. That's what I have seen.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, so yeah, I was talking about this thing, this adult skipper frog, and this species used to be very widely known as Euphlyctis cyanophlyctis, the common skittering frog. But the morphological, I mean, the molecular works done in recent years suggest that the population in eastern and northeastern India, including Bangladesh, are likely to refer to Euphlyctis adolphi. So that is the name I have put there. Very graceful frogs, they just hang around on top of water surface like this. They just float there, and they have a very distinctive call. Although the call I'm going to share here is of Euphlyctis cyanophlyctis, the real one, but the audience can get a hint of what their call might sound like. Yeah, the funny thing is that how this fella keeps calling and at the same time keeps moving its hind legs a little bit so that it can stay afloat. And next we're gonna go to the cricket frogs. Let me tell one thing about this group is that, as you may have already known this, that they are highly cryptic. And although I have managed to put some photographs here just for the sake of this presentation maybe, but that doesn't mean that all the frogs of under this particular name of, or all the frogs of this species will look same or similar. Or rather, if you go through the recent detailed works on molecular and morphological studies, and we'll find out these frogs, the frogs we know as cricket frogs, they are highly cryptic. Let us begin. I think at the moment, the Northern West Bengal only has this one member of genus Prajjwal, that is Orissa Cricket Frog. It is, my idea is that it is not yet known widely from the northern parts, whereas it is available in the southern West Bengal, very large, stocky sized cricket frogs. And the next is we have Nepalese cricket frogs. These are pretty common in the eastern and northeastern India, Nepal, Bangladesh, sort of areas. And they will have these dorsal lines and these granules often arranged in a row. And let me just add one more thing. These frogs usually occupy any kind of habitat in and around human settlement or whatever. However, to go to the village areas, the less populated or the areas with more open areas or fields or agricultural lands, you will find many, maybe 5-6 different species of cricket frogs or 5-6 different species of dicroglossid frogs all grouped together. And maybe in a same waterlogged field, you will see the advertisement call of different species coming from different directions. Next, we have another very common cricket frog of India, the Minervarya agricola. These frogs were very little, very small looking frogs and very common in rural and urban parts. Next, we have this interesting looking frog, the PRS cricket frog, Minervarya PRA. And these things can primarily be identified based on this cream colored band that go along this like that. But it should also be notified that, like what I was telling, these frogs are highly cryptic and you cannot really rely on photographs alone to identify them. Next is Minervarya theriensis. Within the Minervarya genus frogs, these guys are pretty well built up, stocky and robust. This particular specimen was a female, I believe, and see how fat it is. Next, we have one very special frog, that is Minervarya chilapata. We have it is named after its type locality, that is Chilapata Forest. Chilapata Forest is actually in northern West Bengal. So I used to be pretty happy about this. That chalo, at least we have one frog that is literally the flag bearer of northern West Bengal, so to speak. But later it was recorded from Nepal also. However, one thing, as when I was talking about the earlier cricket frogs, I told that how they are often found in and around human settlements. However, this species, from what I know or what I have known so far, these are restricted to forest areas or maybe forest edges. And this is a very special frog. Sorry, the name is wrong here, fault on my part. Anyways, these frogs are known as burrowing frogs. They have this specialized spade-like tubercles in their hind legs with these deadly excellent burrows, and these are called burrowing frogs. And now the thing is that from northern West Bengal, burrowing frogs aren't particularly known to exist. My guess is that it could be Masque's burrowing frog, Spirotheca masquei, but I'm not sure as I only have this photo as evidence. By the way, this frog was recorded from the lower portion of Darjeeling district, where if you remember the map, you would have seen that there is one portion of Darjeeling district that also borders with Bihar and Bangladesh. So it was recorded from those regions. Next is, as I was telling about some lesser known dicroglossids of the hill regions. This is Nanorana. Oh shit, sorry. Okay, there has been a mistake from my part. I apologize for that. The namings are not right. I'll just tell the names. This is the Liebig's spa frog or Liebig's Nanorana frog as we know them. Anorana liebigi. They grow up to pretty large size, and one feature to identify them would be this spine-like granules on their hind legs. So these frogs are sought after for their meat, especially in hilly regions. Next, we have all these photos possibly most likely refer to one particular species of Nanorana, that is, I believe, would be Nanorana anantali. And these frogs are pretty common, even I'll say maybe more common than this Liebig's Nanorana. If you go to a certain altitude, like above 1500, 2000 meter or like that, you'll find these frogs. They will hang around in narrow pathways, some hill slopes, and you will find them in and around streams. Next, I have this one species that I am not able to identify it. It is a Nanorana. I know this much. It was recorded from the Neora Valley National Park of Kalimpong district. And one funny thing is that usually people know Nanorana frogs as stream dwellers, or at least the frogs who are associated with streams. Surprisingly, I found this frog inside a pothole filled with rainwater, and it was coexisting there with the Polypterus, that is a tree frog. To see how the ventral aspect of this frog looks. And this is one photo of their habitat, microhabitat. It is essentially a rain pool, as you can see. These are water, and it is just chilling there. Next, we'll go to the family Megophoridae. Very interesting family. Has this frogs called horned frog. Sometimes they're also called horned toad. First is that mountain horned frog, Xenophorus monticola. So this species was previously used to be confused with Xenophorus parva, and later from Xenophorus parva, two more species were erected, Xenophorus catavaco and Xenophorus sanu. And then, as per the most recent taxonomic word of Stephen Mahoney, all of these come under the synonymy of this Xenophorus monticola. And we have these frogs in the hills of northern West Bengal, especially in the lower to mid altitude hills. They are not very large, medium-sized frogs, and you will be able to see their activity getting at peak after brief rainfalls. So they will just come out of their hiding places and chill on top of rocks or even on the pathways like that. And this is another species of Xenophorus that is known as robust horned frog. Xenophorus robusta. These frogs are pretty large compared to Xenophorus monticola, and what I've seen is that they can live in like a little bit more higher altitude, I will say, like 1500 to 2000 meter, maybe above. These are pretty large, and sometimes if you try to grab them, they will show certain type of responses that you can, like, we can call maybe aggression. They will try to bite sometimes. They will make croaking noises. These frogs hang around in the slope of hills, in the narrow pathways within the hill jungles, and even in the small villages in the mountain. They're often found in and around the houses, just sitting there doing nothing. This is also another photo of robust horned frog. So next family would be family Microhylidae. As the name suggests, micro means small, narrow, and the hylidae portion, this hilus, hyli, that means the head. So basically meaning the narrow-headed or narrow-mouthed frogs. And you can at least see that in all these photos that their mouths are significantly smaller. Well, let us take a look at the first species. This species, much like what happened with Euphlyctis, cyanophlyctis, the common skittering frog, this frog or these frogs used to be very widely known as ornate narrow-mouthed frog or Microhyla ornata. But later, morphological and molecular studies revealed that the Microhyla ornata in India are actually represented by several different species. So in parts of northern West Bengal, the species we get is that Mymensingh narrowmouth frog, Microhyla mymensinghensis, named after the type locality that is in Mymensingh in Bangladesh. Very small frogs, but very loud. I have one video of them calling. Please listen to it. So when they call in chorus, their call in unison, it also feels like a call of crickets or something like that. And as you can see in the thumbnail of this video, there are these dried leaves scattered around. So in the daytime, what they will do is that they will just hide under those dried leaves and stay there. And even if during daytime rainfall occurs, they will just start calling from there. And I've seen that sometimes when they're not calling or not engaging themselves in courtship activity or stuff, they will mostly hang in and around of those brown colored dried leaves and kind of conceal themselves, kind of a camouflage or stuff. And see, so first of all, these frogs are very small themselves, smaller than 1 inch or so. And this is their froglet. So some people may know these grasses are that are being seen around here. These are Cynodon dactylon, what we call Durva grass in Bengali. These have very tiny narrow leaves, and in relation to that, just try to understand how small this froglet might be. So this is a extreme macro shot of this small froglet. Next we have orang sticky frog. I have not yet come across this frog, and there are not many photos available of this frog online either. It was recorded from the Chilapata forest and maybe a few other adjoining forests of northern West Bengal. And I think it might be possible that maybe people are actually seeing these frogs, but misidentifying them as this Microhyla mymensinghensis. I think it is a possibility. Next, we have this rotund sumo-like fella, greater balloon frog. These are almost comical how they move, and you see this they have how much this individual has bloated. So bloating, as we may already know, is a defensive behavior seen in many frogs and toads. But when the balloon frogs, their name is already balloon, they're already quite plump and I'd say robust. And when they bloat, it looks something like this. Also, I'll mention one thing. Let me just go back. So regarding this orang sticky frog, the sticky part in in its name came from the mucus substance that it secretes from its body when caught or disturbed. That is very sticky and smells very bad, supposedly. So this secretion of mucus, it is also seen in this species. If you can look closely, you will find this white goo-like stuff on its dorsum. It is basically the mucus secretion that it secreted at that time. There is one calling video of one male. So when I first learned about how this species calls, my first thought was that there are high chances that we are actually hearing its call in the monsoon all the time, but maybe misidentifying them as the calls of Indian bullfrogs. So often these frogs are understood to be rare, but my understanding is that they are not that rare. They are just well hidden, or they are just in those areas where we don't look for them usually. So this is one amplecting pair of greater balloon frog. As you can see, they have come on top of a paved road, and this road, supposedly, I'll talk about it later. This road supposedly undergoes a very active vehicular flow. So there is always this risk of roadkill. Next is this beautiful frog. It's also a microhylidae, and you can see it has this robust plump body like that balloon frog. We call this Assam Painted Frog, Euphlyctis assamensis. Very beautiful looking, and this is how their froglets look, quite different from the adults. So these are very secretive. They won't come out during daytime. They will be hidden underground or whatever. But these froglets, you will find them like wandering around bushes and stuff, maybe sitting on top of a leaf. There is one video of these frogs climbing. Despite having a very fat body, very plump body, they're excellent climbers. Let's take a look. And here is another video of this frog. I just mentioned that they like to remain hidden underground. So this is how they achieve it. Like when I was talking about the Spirotheca, I mentioned that they have this spade-like tubercles on their hind legs. So these frogs also have them, and it helps them digging. It was a relatively loose, coarse soil mixed with sand, but they also managed to dig through very densely packed muddy soils. Next is another similar looking frog, but a little bit different. It is known as Sri Lankan Painted Frog, Euphlyctis taprobanicus. We have these frogs. In some places, I have seen with sympatrically with the earlier species that we've seen, and they can also climb pretty well. There is one video of them calling. So one more thing about these frogs, the breeding behavior of these frogs is that when they call, they like to remain Hello.
Hello. Yeah, you are audible. Hi, Kiri. Can you
Yeah, yeah.
please make him a co-host again?
I don't know what happened all of a sudden.
But we lost you.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, the frog went underground and we lost you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Uh,
I made him a co-host.
okay. You can start sharing.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi, welcome everybody. This is a Save the Frog South Asia meetup. We are back.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I was cut out
Yes, yes,
after
yes.
this video.
Yes.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that they also have this spade-like tubercles on their hind legs with these. They excellently dig soils, even densely packed muddy soils. Next we have is another very similar species, that is Euperodon tetrobunnicus. We have these frogs, and in northern West Bengal, in many parts, this species were actually exist sympatrically with the earlier species. So now there is one video of how this species calls. One thing about their call is that their call is very guttural kind of a growl kind of thing that you actually feel inside you if you are hearing it up close. And they like to call while being very excellently concealed in vegetation and stuff. They do not like to reveal themselves much. Sometimes they will call from inside very dense bushes or stuff, making them very hard to spot. Next, we'll go to the family Ranidae, the true frogs. So first, we have this small, feeble-looking Theobalds ranid frog, also known as reed frog, leaping frog, etc. They're very small. Their call sounds like birds chirping. They like to hang around in the waterlogged fields on top of the grass and vegetations. This is the video of their calling. Just give a listen to it. Next is this frog used to my favorite frog species when I was a little bit of younger. This is known as Bhamo frog, bright frog, Bollinger's green frog. It goes by several common names. And the scientific name Humerana humeralis, as we may all know, the humerus bone refers to our bone of the hand, like this bone. And as you can see, they have a pretty much soiled gland at this region. So the gland is referred to as humeral gland, and for this genus is called Humerana. So they exist in several different color variations, like the one you see this calling male. Unfortunately, I do not have the call recording. Their call sounds like much of like the noises chickens make, that kind of noise, but much louder and deeper. So see, this individual is kind of greenish, and then we have this mating pairs. So regarding their mating behavior, sometimes they will just acquire some small ponds or water holes, and there will be 50, 60 individual of the species and forming a breeding aggregation essentially. But they will also be seen calling solo from maybe distant places where other frogs are present, and they can breed in small rivers, in ponds, etc. And they are actually fond of water hyacinths and those kinds of things. So this is oh, by the way, This frog is found in both forest region as well as in and around human habitats. But this frog, it is chiefly restricted to forest. This is the Hydrophilus leptoglossa. The term leptoglossa means long-tongued or fine-tongued, and the genus Hydrophilus. Hydrophilus essentially translates to century of the water or something like that. Maybe this name is used to describe their habit of being at the banks of water bodies or something like that. And another funny thing is that Hydrophilus is the genus name of one plant species, that is East Indian water bluet, small flowering shrub, Hydrophilus maritima. So as I was telling, these are forest dwelling species. They're in from temporal rain pools and other water bodies. They will give courtship call. And this calling male, this photo was taken from inside a canal in the tea garden that are made for passing the excess water. They also occupy and utilize those places. This is an amplecting pair, and this is a female ovipositing. Next is another very peculiar frog, that is point-nosed frog, Clinotarsus alticola. Strictly forest-dwelling species. We don't see them in and around human settlements. And these frogs, I would say, in comparison with that Bhamo frog and this Hydrophilus leptoglossa, these frogs are, I would say, somewhat much more rarer. They exist in plains forest, but can also be found up to those foothill forest or even mid elevation or low elevation hill forests. Next, we have one of the stars of the mountain habitats, I will say, the amolops, the marbled cascade frog. So one thing is that this group is also very much cryptic, and this particular name, marbled cascade frog, Amolops marmoratus, currently based on the current knowledge, this taxa is known to exist with a certainty from Myanmar alone. So this is why we cannot actually refer to the frogs that we are finding in Northeast India or maybe in our Northern West Bengal. We cannot actually completely refer them to as Amolops marmoratus. Although I have written the name here for the sake of understanding, easy understanding, but these are a species group, a complex, and likely to be split in several different species. Or yeah, this is a male with a smaller size, and see females are very large. And please pardon the oversaturated tone of this image. I suck at Photoshop edits, and I just wanted to adjust the lighting, and this is how it came out. Although it had very decent coloration, but not this much vibrant. And one noticeable thing is that in all species of amolops, the females are significantly larger. The previous photo of the male that I showed, it would be half of its length, like this much only. And this is a male amolops species that is filling inside a bush. It is a grass-like vegetation. I do not know the exact identification of it, but as we may already know that amolops frogs, they are stream breeders. They will be found in the rocky mountain streams with lots of large boulders, and they will be hidden under boulders and those splash zones where the wave of the cascade are breaking or slamming against a rock and creating a splash of water. That those crevices or those rocks are always moist. These frogs will be found in those places calling. So unfortunately, I don't have any video or audio of their advertisement call, but I can tell their call is very musical. It sometimes sounds like a very mild and melodious whistle, and sometimes it will sound like maybe a little silver bell ringing. So very, very sweet sound to hear. This species I have encountered in Buxa forest of Alipurduar district. These like uh, based on photo, if judged on basis of photo alone, this has some similarity with a species of amolops that we know as Amolops assamensis. But since I have not studied any specimen, I cannot tell for certainty. But these are relatively larger than the previous species that I showed, and they are mostly found sitting on the edges of the hill slopes or the rocks or boulders that are jutting out from there. Actually, there are many different species of amolops, and in northern West Bengal as well, we are likely to have 4 or 5 different species at least. But there are many lesser known species and which I have not been able to show in this slide. So maybe later on sometimes if I ever get the opportunity. So next come to the family Rhacophoridae, that is the tree frogs and bush frogs and stuff. We'll start with this pretty common, I would say the most common tree frog of the northern West Bengal, including the human habitation as well as the plains forest, is that Terai tree frog, Polyphyletus theriensis. They hang around in taro plant groves, in banana groves, and they are very noisy, very loud when it is the monsoon time. They start breeding and courting activity from the beginning of monsoon, and it continues up to the end. And their call sounds like a prolonged croak with a weird sound at the end. Suppose let's say you are wearing rubber slippers and your feet is wet, and when you are walking, your feet will rub against the slipper and will make a very peculiar kind of sound. That's how its part of its call sounds like. And these are the stomach contents of a frog specimen of the species that I flushed. And I was surprised to find that they are actually feeding on snails. As you can see, these are the shells and viscera of snails. This is a photo of calling male. They have what we call internal vocal sacs, and they can call from varying heights actually. Most usually you will find them calling from on top of fences, from small bushes of the height of 3 to 4 feet maybe. But this particular individual was photographed when it was at least 8 feet from the level of ground. And I already mentioned their association with taro plants. They just like to prefer taro plants for whatever reason that is. And this is their amplecting pair. This is their foam nest, as we may have known already. Polyphyletus and other tree frogs, many other tree frogs are known for making foam nest. They will just create a frothy mass of mucus and stuff and just stick it to a leaf right above any water surface. And one funny thing is that this particular foam nest was situated at least 14 feet off the ground, and obviously below there was a rain pool, but I had never seen a foam nest being made at such a high level of the ground. Anyways, next we have this Himalayan tree frog, Polyphyletus himalayanus, very lesser known in North Bengal, and there are people who still confuse it with the previous species, Polyphyletus theriensis. These are chiefly restricted to the hill habitats, the hill forests, and the human habitations in those hilly regions. This is just another photo. Next, we have, it is also a very in respect of Northern West Bengal, it is a very lesser known frog species. It lives in plains forest and low to mid altitude foothill forest and hill forest maybe. It is very small in size and is it is very secretive to be precise. I mean, the polypedal species that I showed, you can find them with pretty much ease, but species is very hard to find. It's just another photo of them. And by the way, this species is also known to construct a smaller sized foam nest or bubble nest. I don't have any photo of, unfortunately. This is one very beautiful frog, giant gliding frog, Sangisalus maragdanus, pretty large sized, pretty beautiful green coloration as well, chiefly restricted to foothills, plains, and low to mid altitude forests. This is an amplecting pair. And we have this weird looking frog. It used to be known, and I mean, it is still sometimes known as bird dropping frog, as if looked from a distance, it will look like a bird's dropping just on a leaf. Previously, these frogs were known as Heloderma asperum, but you know what happens with the recent molecular study and everything. These frogs have been assigned to the nomen Heloderma bivalens. These are so far I have only seen photographs of these frogs coming from Alipurduar district, that Baksa forest, that area. And one peculiar thing about these frogs is that they lay eggs inside tree cavities. One of my senior, Mr. Prajjwal Ray, he has documented their calling behavior and nesting behavior. And supposedly he's writing a paper about it. So let us all wait for that paper to come out. Next, we have Darjeeling bush frog, one of the, I would say, most common bush frog species of India. It is widespread and very common species to encounter in the hills of Northern West Bengal. Like if you literally go to the right place, you will find them everywhere. Very small sized frogs, and their call sounds like clicking noise, like that. This kind of sound they make. And one interesting behavior of these frogs is that they engage in combat, like wrestling. So if a particular male is calling on top of a particular leaf and suddenly another male approaches it, so a fight will break out between these two. Similar kind of observation, a similar behavior is, I think, reported from Rautistus shillongensis, the Shillong wood frog, but they also show that kind of thing. And as we may have already known this, this round-chested frogs, one of their very interesting trait is that their eggs go through direct development. I mean, they lay eggs and from which direct those small froglets come out. So they don't have that tadpole stage. In Facebook, Instagram, you will see these eggs of these round-chested species are pretty available, the photographs of eggs, but those are basically southern Indian species of Western Ghats. So far, I have not seen any photos of breeding behavior. I mean, photographs of eggs or froglets of these species. These are some Rochester frogs, some bush frogs that is from the Kalimpong district, the Neora Valley Hills and those regions. I have not been able to identify this as I only have photos, but this is a possibility that there are some other species of bush frogs living there as well, apart from this Darjeeling bush frog that we talked about. So, the species inventory, the photographs, these and that, these are over by now. And I know we have a constraint on time. I'll try to finish it early. So let us look at some prevailing threats that the amphibians of Northern West Bengal face. So first will be road mortality. You see this map image of these road and these road, they are just passing through dense forest land. This is actually Gurumara National Park of my district near my town. And this is the Baksa forest I was continuously referring to. This is in Alipurduar district. You see this road is just passing through the dense forest land. What happens is that this is a photograph of Gurumara Forest Road. During monsoon, the temporal rain pools will form at the sides of the road because those places are usually depressed, like hollowed out. So water will be stored there and frogs will start breeding in those places just beside the road. And for their breeding purposes, the groups of frogs or single frogs will move from here to there. And this is the time they become vulnerable to the vehicular mortality. And then we end up with results like this. This is a Vamo frogs roadkill. And one funny thing is that if you look at this photo, you will be able to see small caterpillars that are moth caterpillars, basically, that are feeding on this rotting carcass. This essentially indicates towards a thing called ecological trap, meaning like I'm gonna explain it in pretty easy term. That is basically if one animal is died on road and if one animal has become a roadkill and another animal comes and tries to eat it, and there is always a chance that it will end up as a roadkill itself. So a similar thing was happening in this video. This is a okay, this is a photograph, I think. Yeah, this is a crate, and it just saw the opportunity of this roadkill Indian bullfrog lying on road, and it came there to feed on it. Since the road was less traveled and the snake is pretty large to catch the attention of the spectators, the pedestrians, so this snake was not luckily run over by any random vehicle. But this is what happens, and this is how it happens. Next, let us go to this what to say. Let us address the elephant in the room, that is habitat loss. So habitat loss is such a thing that seem to be trivial from time to time because we don't maybe notice it that much. The adverse effects of habitat loss. Maybe we don't notice this as much as we do in case of road mortality and such. But these are a very dangerous, a grave danger, I would say. So I'll cite one example from my town. This place is actually very close to my home. It used to be a natural land-bound wetland. Okay, it is a Google Map image of that area from 2016-17. As you can see, this wetland characteristic water bodies are seen. And when that place was like that, this Hylarana titleri, the Theobald's granite frog that I already showed, they used to breed there in large numbers. I remember one particular night that I had encountered almost 150 to 200 individuals of this frog breeding on those areas. But later, what happened was that this land was found to be disputed, and some large-scale businessman just claimed this land for himself and converted into a personally owned fishery. As you can see, how the structure and everything of the water bodies are changed. No undergrowth, no secondary vegetations, and as I have been to these places, the slopes, the banks of these water bodies are very steep and not suitable for frogs to breed at all. So this is what happened. The beautiful population that this place held for these species went away. I don't know where, but it just went away. And this place, as of now, ends up with only this species. I may have already told this that these are the cricket frogs and these are highly adaptable, so they will just adjust anywhere. If you think how trivial the examples of habitat loss can be and how common are these, maybe even in and around you and me and everyone, then you can actually understand how thing maybe is affecting our amphibian population and wildlife population in general unknowingly under radar. In respect to hill habitats, deforestation are likely to cause disturbance or affect the populations of frogs like bush frogs because they are associated with bushes, dense forests, and undergrowths and stuff. And apart from that, one small interesting thing is that the dirt roads of hill habitats will almost always have potholes. And when I was talking about the Himalayan toad and that particular unidentified Menorana species, I told that they make use of this rain-filled potholes. So now, if this road is, for example, converted into a paved road with cement, so that particular phenomena ceases to exist. And there are also another maybe more significant threats to the hill amphibians, like construction of dams or such, which significantly alter the ways of waterways. And for species like Nanorana, Amolops, Xenophryus, which are dependent on streams, they will face such a, I mean, their population is going to be affected, their breeding and everything. This is very interesting actually, the frog meat consumption scenario. So what happens is that we may know it already that in northeastern India and even in other parts of India, tribal populations consume frogs as part of their traditional, cultural, ethnic belief. But in case of Northern West Bengal, the scenario is little bit different, I will say. So far, what we have found out is that only these three frogs are consumed: the Amolops, the Xenophryus, and the Nanorana. And even within these species, only large-bodied, large individuals are harvested. Hello? Hello? Yeah, yeah. Just a minute. Yeah. So these things are there. We are actually under the process of collecting data for this frog consumption practices in Northern West Bengal. So far, we have found two recipes. One is that these frogs are either dried and made into a soup or mixed with crab meat, eggs, and then eaten like that. But we actually don't know how much this is affecting the population of amphibians in Northern West Bengal. So we cannot tell anything for certain. So we have come to an end almost. So possible mitigation, it is very interesting if we talk about the roadkill scenario. So no mitigation strategy for roadkill is ever devised considering the cases of reptiles and amphibians. Because people will break for large charismatic animals, mammals and stuff, but they won't possibly break for like amphibians. What needs to be done is that we need to aware the masses, we need to involve the communities, involve either in conservation activities, or I will say at least involve them in the mutual feeling we possess for the amphibians. And considering the habitat loss aspect, what we can do from our end is that we can at least leave small patches of habitat, small places in our backyard gardens or front lawns, which can be then uh, acquired by the amphibians. These are this is very famous building from Milan, Moscow Vertical. So this basically shows a sustainable way of sustaining nature while also not saying no to the development aspect. So my point of putting this picture here is that uh, beautification project or development project in underdeveloped or developing areas will keep happening, but that doesn't mean we'll always have to forsake the amphibian habitats. If we can get in touch with the concerned departments and we can approach it in form of like technical mitigation strategies and everything, these losses can be bypassed. And for the awareness campaigns that I and many people conduct, I think choosing the right kind of content and right set of audience is very crucial. What I have found out while going to conduct awareness in the village areas is that what I was saying, they don't really care about the frogs. Although I found some instances where the kids seem to be fascinated by frogs, like you can see in this slide, the colorful pictures and these and that are there, and kids are just taking it all in. Fascination may be there, but they just can't relate to frogs in a way they relate to venomous snakes, maybe because snakes are directly related to their mortal threat and whatnot. Let's not go into that. So again, I'll personally suggest that we need to for building up this fascination. Maybe we need to involve kids more. Maybe we can arrange frog walks where we show them frogs. And before ending, I just want to cite a very beautiful example. So this is a very cute homestay in the hill areas where we go for herping, and people in this part used to kill snakes like this. This photo is from Africa, but people in these parts used to kill snakes and take pride in that. But later, much later on, they kept seeing us going there, photographing frogs, these and that. And now their mindset is changing. They are more into like observing frogs now. This is very strange, I know, but it happened. So my point is that if it has happened here, it can happen in many places. And this is what I think we should all strive towards. With this being said, yeah, community involvement is the key, I believe. And my thanks to all these people, my thanks to Sarvani Nagdi, Save the Frogs India, and all these wonderful people that has granted me permission of using their photos. And thank you all. I'm ending this here. Thank you.
So Prajjwal, thanks to you for this wonderful speech. And we are overwhelmed, so we haven't noticed the time. So thanks a
Yeah.
lot to you. And yeah, there are a few questions like over in the US, we should spend afternoons catching frogs. No, it's not a question. So I'm requesting the audience, we can take only at least a minimum of 3 questions, a maximum of 3 questions. So if you have any questions, please shoot. And yeah, any question? I'll be able to make colored waffles. Could you please suggest some tips to frog watch? Also, you can suggest a field guide on frog watching.
I think there are not a lot of great, or even there are not a lot of field guides out there. There are few books, but I would suggest to rely upon published materials and standardized websites like Amphibians of the World, Amphibia Web, this and that. And for frog watch, you just have to be patient. You go out at evening time, night time, in the monsoon, and you just be patient. You just search. That is pretty much it.
Okay, so the next question, second question, Prajjwal Ray, frog calls are often species specific but can be influenced by environmental factors. How do you differentiate between variations due to species and those caused by habitat or weather conditions? Also, what do you think about their communication media except breeding calls?
Yeah, for the second part of their question, I have seen this peculiar thing in Asian common toads, that now that we know here, it is almost winter. It is winter actually. And winter, as we know, is a dormancy state of frogs and toads. But I have noticed that they make the frogs, the toads that are living inside our houses, our rooms perhaps, they make from time to time very peculiar kind of calls. So I think it would be great to investigate this further, to look for what these calls mean, are these communication, or what they stand for. And as of the first part of the question, yes, frog calls can be influenced by environmental factors, but I do not think I'm the right person to answer this question because I have not done a lot of work regarding this bioacoustic analysis and these and that. So I think I'm not the right person to answer this. Yeah. Hello. Sarvanidhi, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. So yeah, I muted myself. Sorry.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion. Like we had a session with Dr. Robin Panjikar, who is a bioacoustics expert, frog acoustic expert, and our video of that session is on YouTube. So if possible, you can see it and watch it, and you can have your answers. Now the third and last question: which frog species are critically endangered in northern West Bengal?
See, the frogs that are living in hill regions, the mountain frogs, basically. And as I have said, I have not included every single species that are known to exist from northern West Bengal. So those frogs are often data deficient in a lot of aspects. Their breeding data, habitat preferences. So even if there are some critically endangered frogs existing right now, we won't know about them. But there are some frogs of genus Nanorana that I think are currently listed as near threatened or something like that. So yeah.
Okay, so we are on the completed the finishing line, and now it was again a very overwhelming talk, and thanks to you for being with us.
Thanks to
So
you.
Kerry, if you want to say something about this.
Hello. Thank you so much, Prajjwal. Thank you also, Sarbani. Very informative, excellent photos, and probably a lot of new information on frogs in a part of the world that I certainly don't hear about the frogs from up there in northern West Bengal. And now I know a lot about the geography of that region too. So everyone out there, stay in touch. Sarbani has a Save the Frogs India WhatsApp group. So if you're not on that and want to be, then you should probably contact her about that. Remember to check out savethefrogs.com/India. And I will be on again in 3.5 hours. So if you want to join a Save the Frogs Africa meetup, that's taking place in 3.5 hours from now. savethefrogs.com/Africa. Remember, photo contest ends December 1st. So get your photo in savethefrogs.com/photo. That's it for me. Back to you, Sarbani, and thanks again, Prajjwal.
Yes, so basically I have an announcement and a request to everyone that who are present in this talk. I would expect you in our next talk, but the next talk will not be on the last Saturday of December month, because that will be between 25th to 1st December, 1st January. So people will not be there to listen to talks. So that is actually on the 3rd, probably 21st December. If you are on the WhatsApp group, if you can mail me your WhatsApp number, then I can actually add you to the group, so we can actually create a virtual platform where we can share our thoughts and everything, and the updates also. So our next talk will be interesting as well, as we will invite woman bacteriologist from India, Dr. Saipati Silo. So she will be talking about the frogs and the stakes of women in Indian herpetology and bacteriology as well. So thanks to all of you for being with us. We had a nice evening, and thanks to Prajjwal for your very informative talk.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarvanidhi.
Bye.
Bye.